Hello, survivors. Welcome to episode 14, where in today's episode we go through the latest information on Genesis Part 2 and Arc 2. We take a look at some exciting details from the patch notes and so much more. So without further ado, let's get started. Love that new intro. Sorry, I had to say that. So firstly, I need to apologise for the lateness and absence of ARC news recently. I was struggling with the direction that this channel was taking and was reminded that ARC is a unique game with its own unique foibles. It was with this in mind that I now have come down from my ascendant pedestal and I'm ready to take this channel in the correct direction. Next, I've been preparing my laptop also, which this means I'm now able to do live streams in the future. Also, there are some other commitments as well, but they've been done now. In other news, I will be starting a new series called Arc Highlights. This will be separate from the Arc News episodes, and the first episode will be coming at the end of April. Also, we have, as I've already mentioned, that new intro featuring some footage that I've gathered over the past year. So let's get on with the news, shall we? I mentioned in the Genesis Part 2 special last episode that there was a creature announced while I was recording, and that I would talk about it in episode 14, and here we are. So the creature is called the Maywing. The image will be on screen, as you can see. It was engineered to be the ultimate wetness and surrogate parent. In addition to taking care of your babies, the Maywing can steal enemy offspring. So initially it's a nanny to look after your maturing baby dinos, hopefully. Again, we don't know much. The appearance resembles a hybrid mix of a platypus and sugar glider. They've released another image this week featuring a survivor on the back of it while gliding, also showing the nanny function as well. I mean, this creature is massively larger than I was anticipating compared with the scale if you look at the image. So yeah, it looks great. Yeah. We also had another image showing the egg incubator in use. This is something that I'm looking forward to, as we all know. It looks amazing, clearly showing level of the eggs and gender. And from the information, we also know that this device will eventually also show us possible mutations. So hopefully this will be something that helps us a lot. So we also had some also disappointing news. Obviously, I've been away for a while, and that Wildcard gave us that Genesis Part 2 will be delayed. Now let me be clear, there was never a guaranteed release date when they locked in March 2020. There was not a specific date. A lot of people said beginning of March, a lot of people like myself said the end of March, but Wildcard themselves did not give a clear date. So yes, a delay is disappointing, but they have given us a clear and specific date, information on the map itself, and a new creature. The release date for Genesis Part 2 is now the 26th of May 2021. So Genesis Part 2 is different, based directly on player feedback from Genesis Part 1. So the entire map is open and livable with minimal no-build zones that avoid disrupting the overworld and an aesthetically pleasing environment. Structures, items, and creatures have been designed to assist and improve gameplay and quality of life for all players and designed to extend the meta in meaningful ways. I cannot wait for this map, and I'm happy for the wait. Yes, I'm disappointed that it is delayed, but this gives me time to be ready, and at the moment the channel's going through a change anyway, especially with the live streaming. So once Genesis 2 is here, I will have already done a live stream, hopefully. Fingers crossed. So Wildcard did also announce the new creature. There are 2 images of it. The Void Worm. So though it appears similar to the Wyverns, it could just be another technological creation. So it seems we're getting another tech creature which can fly faster than a Quetz. Yes! A tech Wyvern. I can see these being the dino to have on official. There's always a beast people complain about. I reckon this is going to be it for me. For me, I can't wait to add it to the collection of tech creatures I have already. Oh, I'll make sure that it's yellow. The other image that it shows is the Survivor in the new Tech Suit 2.0 as well. Again, the new tech suit, we all know that I'm looking forward to this. I grabbed all the pieces of the skin. That looks amazing as well. So, you know, it looks great. The final reveal, or one of the final reveals for Genesis Part 2, was the Exo-Mech, or Exo-Suit, depending on what time you caught the Community Crunch. Haha. A successor to the current mech, the design is certainly more refined and streamlined. Certainly, you can see more dino references or aesthetic with the spikes along the top of the cockpit. The cockpit is larger, more viewable this time. I thought you could see clearly there was a more defined pilot area than the previous mech, although they did explain you were inside it. You know, I'll explain. It was originally called the Exo-Suit before they changed it a few hours later to Exo-Mech. I'm rather hoping for a couple of things with this mech that were not with the previous mech. Top of my list, flight. The last mech would only hover/glide for a very short period. I'm hoping for this, seeing as it's a smaller, more akin to the Hulkbuster or an Exo-Suit rather than a mech from Pacific Rim, that it will be able to fly. You know, even if it's, you know, even if it's just for a short time with a cooldown, you know, it'd be great to have a form of flight with this. You know, I know the tech suits do it, but it'd be great to have some form of flight. Better defenses would be great. There's no way of defending from the oncoming attacks with the previous mech. I mean, there was a shield, but it provided a buff rather than a defense. So it'd be great to see that. And I think the third one, I think everyone can relate to this one, would be better harvesting and taming. The previous was designed for attack. It didn't offer any sort of harvesting. It didn't harvest anything at all, and didn't even tame. So I think, given the developers want to ensure longevity with this game, my hope would be that this mech is more useful than the last, or some form of harvesting. At least maybe it could have the harvesting beam that the Strider has, or, you know, a taming gun would be perfect. But again, it's a difficult situation with tech creatures because you get excited about them because they look great, and I love them, but sometimes I find myself asking, is this really what we wanted? So, you know, that I hope with the mech it has more usefulness than its predecessor, but the likely scenario is it'll be a machine to be used for killing creatures, and that'll be only use until the game is released, but we won't know. Oh, we should mention today, in fact, or last night actually, they released a photo of the tech quad plots in action, with a weird tentacle growing in them, I think it was fairly obvious to everybody that this that the main antagonist or the villain in both Part 1 and Part 2 of Genesis has obviously been Rockwell. He was teased at the end of Extinction with that mysterious breathing, with that purple orb from Aberration, and then the boss fight in Genesis Part 1, and it'll be amazing what they see next in Part 2. Obviously we all know who's playing Rockwell in Part 2. So I do want to talk about what we know so far about Genesis Part 2 and Arc 2. Obviously, I think you'd all know, if you watch this channel, that Arc 2 is... we have zero information on Arc 2. There is no official confirmation. The focus is on Genesis Part 2 at the moment, and that's what we know. There are some things we can say for sure that with Arc 2 that we are going to get, based on the article, and there are some things that we know at this point. It's just, until they're done with Part 2, we're not going to know anything, because it's all done periodically. And yeah, that's how we can say that is what it will be. Starting with Genesis Part 2, so I'm going to read from the Gamepedia, and basically I'm reading from the more of the unique environmental features, because it gets updated every now and then. So there are 4 areas that have been added. So, the Eden Zone, a starter area for survivors filled with plateaus, rivers and waterfalls, providing all necessary resources needed for survival. Tech trenches that act as technological bridges between biomes and potentially the 2 rings. Rockwell's Garden, an aberrant and twisted region created by Rockwell, filled with his eerie creations such as the Shadow Mane and the Nooglin. And finally, an area fused with the insides of Sir Edmund Rockwell, affectionately known as the Rockwell Innards Bio. So obviously that's one of the photos we saw, was sort of the innards of Rockwell. So it's very interesting choices they've made with the biomes there. So we've got some very interesting options, I feel. So on to Arc 2. So we already know the first bit, that's been there for a while, so the next part is what I'm going to read. Judging by the remnants of the Genesis ship seen in the Arc 2 trailer and the early game description, it seems like Arc 2 will take place on an alien planet in the far reaches of space after the events of Genesis Part 2. This means that Arc 2 either is or takes place after the arrival. It's very interesting, and also it does say that it will be a sandbox similar to the first game as well. So that's very important to note as well. So that it is sort of confirming that we are getting still the same sandbox system that we know now as well. So that's good to know. One thing about Arc 2 is worthy to know is that I think there's just no info because of Genesis Part 2. I think expect the next Extra Life to focus on it, because Genesis Part 2 will be done by the end of the year. I wouldn't expect there to be a free map. Now, I would expect Genesis Part 2 to be the last. Then I would expect them to focus on making sure that's working, making sure the game is... So some final quality of life adjustments coming through, seeing us through now to Arc 2, and then basically, because Arc 2 is slated for next year, at some point, whenever that will be, and I would say that we will probably see the next Extra Life stream being reveals. I would say we'd probably even might get another trailer by then as well. That would probably be what I would say. And I would say it's more than likely that there will be a season pass. Judging by what the article said, is that they won't do skins or anything like that. I would say it's more than likely that there will be a season pass for Arc 2 as well. So, you know, it's not just going to be one map. It will start off that way, but it's more than likely that it will go the same way as what we've had so far, is that there'll be more than one map on Arc 2. So, because that's how it works, depending on its success. So, it's just how it goes. So let's carry on. I want to talk about some recent patches that got some people in the community very excited. Basically, PC and console players who play on private servers or single player, this is for you. You can amend flyer speed now, something that is a major quality of life issue and something that was buffed a long time ago. Essentially, when you level up your dinos, you can usually change their movement speed as one of the levels. Unfortunately, this does not apply to flyers, while with the new code you can correct in the ini file of the game. For private servers and on single players, I assume you can make the change as you set up the single player map. You can also make a permanent change to fly speed, but if you increase this speed just to make quets fly faster, then all other flyers will be affected by the same modifier, so bear that in mind. So yes, if you go to your ini file, you can add this and you can now unbuff the buff. Or you can just, modify your fly speed so you can now fly faster. I just want to quickly address something that happened in the community that happened earlier on in the couple of months ago. I do feel it's important that I address the recent behaviour of some of the community who felt it was appropriate to speak to our community manager's mother about ARC issues. I would just like to say you're not funny and that your behaviour was not acceptable. And my thoughts go out to our community manager's family, who I'm sure most of you will agree did not need that at this time. I will be covering the community in general in an ARC highlights episode, but I just wanted to say that at this time. That's all for this episode of ARC News. I will talk to some of my tribemates about running and owning another server in ARC Highlights, and also the first episode of ARC Highlights coming soon as well. So make sure you subscribe for more ARC news, and if you have any questions or thoughts on anything I discussed in this episode or others, then leave a comment below. Thanks for watching ARC News, a place of fact, truth, positivity, foibles, and community. And see you next time, survivors.